Hello everyone, welcome to the best place to hear the best takes. I'm Benjamin Cure, you're watching the Benjamin Cure Show. We had an excellent, action-packed week one, but there are clearly some bumps in the road for some teams. Clearly preseason was a little more necessary than we thought. Some guys really struggled out the gate. We're going to cover that. We're also going to talk about some of the biggest upsets in the week. Russell Wilson versus his former team Seattle. What went wrong? I'm also going to talk about Trey Lance, and I think he's on really thin ice right now. So let's get started right now. I'll be the first one to say it. I really thought Russell Wilson was going to be able to cook on Monday Night Football. It was his return game. I thought he would be motivated. The new roster, the great weapons, the great additions, going back to the place that steered him wrong, that didn't want him. There's been all that controversy going on, and I thought he could really rise above it, especially because of the news that we'd heard the week prior. The Walter Pennant ownership group gave him that massive extension. They wanted to back up the Brinks truck for him. Even though he's 33 years old, they think they can win with him. They wanted some consistency. They gave him what he wanted. They ignored the salary cap. They said, we're going to go all in. So I thought that Russell Wilson in week one with his new team would feel a little more fresh, re-energized, the contract news, all that good stuff rolling. He had all the momentum, and I thought it was going to be a big game on the biggest NFL stage to date, probably besides the Bills-Rams game, which was the first game of the week. Now, here's the thing, and I talk about this all the time. There's a difference between good and great, and there's a difference between great and the greatest. Russell Wilson is a great quarterback. He is not one of the greatest. We've seen him have amazing performances, and that's what we expected on Monday night, and he had a less than good one. But it's only the first game of the season. You know, I did a little bit of background research because I was interested. How have older quarterbacks who have left their team and gone to a new one, how have they fared in their first NFL matchup? Or at least in their return matchup? And after Googling a couple times, going to StatMuse and checking out the different websites, it's not that all uncommon. Peyton Manning finished with a 1-3 record versus his former team, the Colts, once he was with the Broncos. I thought that was very important to note. We saw how frustrated Peyton was at the end of that game. He called timeout 62 different times. He didn't like what he was seeing. Nobody did. It looked awkward. The 2 goal line fumbles were absolutely brutal. It just wasn't their best performance. Coaching as well. And the head coach admitted it after the game. He would have probably not gone for that kick and instead gone for it on 4th down with Russell. You're paying a guy $200+ million. You have to give him the ball. Give him the chance to win you the game. Don't tell some young kicker, hey, let's see if you can go from 60+ yards in an outdoor stadium. It's not the way you win. It's not the way it's done on Monday night. They have learned, and they will probably be better. But you can clearly see that we expected something that just wasn't going to happen. Tom Brady's first game, it was against the Saints when he joined the Bucs. He didn't do all that well either. There are struggles. It is a new playing system. You know, guys in recent years, those around the league have expected, oh, wow. I mean, the recipe for success is get a veteran quarterback, put him on a team that is really good everywhere else. They need a quarterback, and it's a recipe for success. Maybe so, but you can't just expect the Super Bowl out of it. It has been pure coincidence by the football gods and the forces that may be that Tom Brady went to the Bucs, was excellent, and he was able to win a Super Bowl. I am not saying that winning a Super Bowl is luck. I am simply saying that us as football fans had good luck that Brady did it one year, and the very next year, Matthew Stafford did it with the Rams. That is not normal. It is not normal to just come to a team and expect success from day one. And both of those teams did have their struggles early on. Before the Bucs' first bye week during that Super Bowl run, people were questioning whether or not that was even a top 10, top 15 team. They were struggling. Brady wasn't used to throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game. He had lots of picks. He had more yards than usual. It was a new format. He was used to the dink and dunk, the flea flicker, but it was just a different offense. You have to give time for a veteran quarterback to get adjusted. They've been doing the same thing for 10, 15 plus years. You cannot expect success from day one. And I am at fault of that. I overreacted on Tuesday. And now on Thursday, I'm a little bit calmer about the whole situation. But I think Russell Wilson's going to be fine. But I don't like that loss. That loss looks really bad. It's to a Seattle Seahawks team that, you know, no team is officially tanking. But come on. They're not exactly competing for a Super Bowl here either. They're your former team. They are so weak. I just didn't expect that. Russell Wilson got outplayed in some of the biggest moments by Geno Smith. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't have that on my bingo card. So stuff is going to have to improve. He still threw for 389 yards. He did amazing, but it was in those big spots that I feel like Russell Wilson always comes up short in that he ended up coming short in. Now, Geno Smith, after the game, had an excellent quote. They wrote me off, but I didn't write back. That's an all-timer right there. He's great for Seattle. Clearly, that locker room is feeling a little bit better, but they're going to be facing next week a division rival. They're facing the 49ers, which leads into my next story. The San Francisco 49ers. Here's the deal. Jimmy Garoppolo's contract is $7 million with a guaranteed bare minimum of $6.5 million. Now, that's the highest paid backup quarterback in the league. But with the incentives for snaps played and in-game action and starter action, the contract has a maximum value of just under $16 million. So, we've already gone over those numbers before. Why am I mentioning this? I'm here to tell you right now, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to make closer to $15.5 million this season than he is $6.5. Because after just one game, I can tell you that at some point this season, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to become the all-time permanent starter for San Francisco. There's no question. Trey Lance is not doing it for me. He's not doing it for the team. It is brutal to watch him play. Now, I know that I have been a little bit harsh on Trey Lance. We started this show in the offseason. I didn't get to talk about him actively with you guys during the course of last season, but I didn't like him there either. I didn't like what I was seeing, and I don't like what I'm seeing now. I have actually, as much as I've pepped up Jimmy Garoppolo, I've kind of not done him justice. I've called him the best insurance policy in the league. I've called him a great backup quarterback. But you know what? That's simply not true. He is more than that. A backup quarterback does not take you to the Super Bowl. It doesn't take you within one possession in the fourth quarter of winning the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo has been a very valuable starter for Kyle Shanahan's offense. It works for him. I've said this before. Kyle Shanahan is a great coach, and he's one of those guys that his coaching game plan is so unique because he doesn't need a superstar at the position to win him a bunch of games or have postseason success. That is not normal in today's day and age. I've always said it. This is a quarterback-run league. So for Kyle Shanahan to accomplish what he has with Jimmy Garoppolo is simply a feat of nature, a freak of nature. We will never see anything like that again in the modern era of the NFL. Here's my problem with it. I see some similarities between the Green Bay Packers situation with Aaron Rodgers and the 49ers situation with Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, they are different. Aaron Rodgers would go on to win back-to-back MVPs after they drafted Jordan Love. He clearly proved that he's that guy. He was a Hall of Famer before Jordan Love got there. He's definitely solidified his case after the fact. But I do see the 49ers having to do what Green Bay did. At the end of the day, maybe you're not making him the highest paid quarterback in the league, but that front office and that coaching staff is going to have to look at Jimmy Garoppolo and say, look, we were wrong. We traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance, thinking he was the answer, he was the future, thinking we had gotten the best out of you and we were done with you, we were going to move on, and we were wrong. That was a wrong decision. He wasn't ready. He wasn't good enough. He wasn't what we needed on this team. Jimmy, you are. We need you to take the reins. I'll never forget the energy around the NFL when Jimmy Garoppolo first got traded to the 49ers. The shock that the Patriots would give up the most valuable insurance policy in the NFL. People were shocked and even excited, especially if you were a 49er fan, that season when Jimmy Garoppolo finished the season undefeated. He looked amazing in that offense from day one. That's not easy. It is not easy to walk into a team and find immediate success. We're just talking about Russell Wilson, who was a Hall of Fame quarterback and couldn't get it done against the worst team in the league on game one. But Jimmy did. He went 8-0. The only reason he didn't make the playoffs is because the record was so bad beforehand that they were already out of contention by the time he got there. The 49ers are going to have to extend the hand to Jimmy Garoppolo and say, please take my hand. Please save us. Because Trey Lance is not the answer. I am 2 games away from bailing on the Trey Lance experiment. Now, it may be unfair of me. Week 1, it was against the Bears, another great young quarterback. A weaker team for sure. Nonetheless, there was weather. Soldier Field is one of the worst fields in the NFL. The weather conditions were just awful. The rain was like sludge, just awful field conditions. They had to superimpose the yard lines and the hash marks on TV to even watch the game and understand where the ball was at on the field. It was a disaster. But at the end of the day, the NFL season is from August to February. In there, you're going to play some games in the cold and hot and wet and rainy and snowy. You cannot use the excuse that, the weather really did us in. And you can't allow us to make that excuse for you, which is what I feel like the team is kind of doing right now. Trey Lance acknowledged that he made mistakes after the game. He even picked out a couple key plays. I should have hit Debo on this one to convert on 3rd down. He was good about that. But I feel like they're just brushing it under the rug and acting like, hey, it was a field issue. No, it wasn't. Trey Lance has shown that he is inaccurate. He's not good in practice. We've heard those reports in preseason and now. And he's not good on the field. Practice is not everything, but it is something. We heard, I'll never forget this, when Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals was wrapping up that amazing year with LSU, the one that made him who he is. They were asking right around the national championship time, his corners, his DBs, the defense. They were interviewing the whole team. Of course, that got ratings, so they wanted to talk to the guys on the team. And I'll never forget them asking his teammates, the guys on defense, hey, when did you know that Joe Burrow was Joe Burrow? When did you see that coming? And I'll never forget, I can't remember his name, but it was one of the DBs, and he was like, well, during the offseason, when we were playing scrimmages, Joe would throw 6 or 7 touchdowns on us. So we thought either we're really bad or we've got something special in our hands. And it turned out that it was the former, lucky enough for them. Joe Burrow was amazing, and he proved to be. That's not the situation with Trey Lance. We're not hearing great things out of practice. We're not hearing, hey, he's making some great plays, some great decision-making, some strong throws in the right places. He's doing everything right. He gets the little plays right. He follows the coach's plan. We're not hearing that. We have heard nonstop, hey, the organization's not super confident in Trey Lance's ability. Yeah, the accuracy is a problem. Yeah, the accuracy is not doing it for us. He's in the 50% completion rating area. That's not going to do it. I've heard a ton of people talking recently as a defense for Trey Lance. Hey, but Josh Allen came in and his rookie year was 52% completion. I'm here to tell you this right now. In 2018, when Josh Allen was playing for the Bills and he was not what he is today, you could still see signs. He was improving every week. He was showing you, hey, I'm capable of getting this done. He had those little improvements. He'd have bad games, but you could see it. The decision-making was getting better. The accuracy was getting better day by day. And you know what? Josh Allen did not have a Super Bowl caliber roster built around him at the time. 2018 was not the Bills. The 2018 Bills were not the Bills that exist today, that we are considering to be the Super Bowl favorite as of right now. Trey Lance cannot afford to make excuses or mess up with this roster. You're loaded everywhere. I talked about it in my Ben's Best list. Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Elijah Mitchell, who's now unfortunately injured, an excellent offensive line, always an excellent defense, and one of the best coaches in the league. I'd say top 3. Off the top of my head, it's Sean McVay, Andy Reid, then Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid are kind of interchangeable on that list. But at the end of the day, you have everything around you to succeed. That's why I think the Steelers should start Kenny Pickett. Hey, if that kid can't succeed now, he's never going to. The team is solid. You cannot afford to be making these early blunders in an absolutely loaded division. You're competing with the Rams. But if you can beat them, you can outdo them when it comes to the record, you are right there in contention for a bye or for a playoff spot, or even better yet, you're in contention to be able to make it to the Super Bowl. That is a Super Bowl roster. And to take a loss like that to the Chicago Bears, who are not tanking, but they might as well be an awful roster, no weapons around Justin Fields. You allow that team to beat you in those conditions with the roster that you have? I am 2 games away from bailing on Trey Lance. And you know what? He may not even get 2 more. Based on what we're hearing around the league, if Trey Lance loses this game, Kyle Shanahan might have no choice but to put in Jimmy Garoppolo. You are facing a team that is tanking. You're facing Seattle next week. Yes, they beat Russell Wilson. That was a fluke win. Geno Smith is not going to have an all-star Pro Bowl performance every single week like that. That is simply not going to happen. Trey Lance needs to buckle down, needs to really hone in on his skills this week, needs to be focused, and needs to lead that talented roster and win that game. Because if he doesn't, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get subbed back in. Because that whole locker room is going to say, hey, we're getting paid, and we're not here to wait around. We are waiting on Jimmy Garoppolo to come and win us these games. Because we know he can. People always say, when they were in the process of drafting Trey Lance, the team knows what Jimmy Garoppolo isn't. Well, guess what? You know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. You know where he can take you. You know what he's capable of. And making it to a Super Bowl with the injured roster that year, yeah, that's a pretty good place to take you. If this team is really trying to compete and make it to the promised land this season, they're going to put in Jimmy Garoppolo after this game. If Trey Lance can't get it done, it's inevitable. And unfortunately, down the line, whether it's at the end of the season, whether it's midway through this season, whether it's the game after this one, the 49ers front office, coaching staff, ownership, Kyle Shanahan is going to have to look at Jimmy Garoppolo in the eye and say, hey, we were wrong. You're our guy. And that's why that contract, just like I said, I could not help but think if that contract was a contingency plan because they knew that Jimmy was their guy all along. And they were terrified of the possibility of losing Jimmy and realizing, hey, Trey Lance isn't that guy before it was too late. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm definitely going to be tuned in amongst all the other games to Seattle versus the 49ers because it will be career deciding for multiple individuals on that team. As a football fan, I am very excited today. You should be too. We are probably getting the game of the week on Thursday Night Football. What's going on tonight? Chiefs versus the Chargers. AFC West battle. 2 of the strongest teams there. We can definitely say that with confidence after the Week 1 results. They are competing for 1A and 1B and that top spot in the AFC West tonight. It's going to be a big divisional matchup. Chargers already had a AFC West test against the Raiders. They were clearly able to get it done, although they did have some issues that will need to be worked out. Chiefs are, of course, coming off an offseason where there was a lot of talk about whether or not they could succeed without Tyreek Hill, who came to the Dolphins. It's an interesting situation, but at the end of the day, we are excited to watch none other than 2 guys, Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Former MVP and an MVP candidate. And those are actually interchangeable. You could say that in today's day and age, especially after that Week 1 performance, Patrick Mahomes could also be an MVP candidate this season. Of course, very early to tell. But what are we looking for tonight? We are looking to see who is going to make it out of the AFC West. Who is the stronger team? Can we already get a preview of who's going to be leading the pack in February? And in January, can we already see that foretold tonight? So the Chiefs, I think, are the better team. They have Travis Kelce. They are less predictable on offense, which makes them even more dangerous now that Tyreek Hill is gone. They are clearly proving that they can manage to win without him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is finally starting to fulfill that role of a pass-catching halfback, a guy who can score touchdowns, get into the end zone. He had an excellent Week 1 performance. I think he'll finally be what they need in the running game for the Chiefs to succeed. And Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He is still very capable of throwing 4, 5, and 6 touchdowns on you, whether or not Tyreek Hill is in the roster. And that is very, very impressive. So what are we looking for? We're looking for Justin Herbert to show up, to show that he is a future MVP candidate, to prove that he is one of the best guys in this league. And he's going to have to show that with injuries. Of course, we saw that there are some holes in that defense. It's not exactly perfect, but it is one of the best defenses in the league. And if I had to pick who had the better defense, it would be the Chargers. And they are an absolutely loaded team. They're still in Super Bowl contention. And I might go as far as to say, just after week 1, if I am redoing the Ben's Best list, the top 3 is AFC. It's all AFC teams in the top 3. Number 1, Chiefs. Number 2, Bills. Number 3, Chargers. That's just the way it worked out. And if I would have told you that before the season, you would have probably said, oh, not that crazy. 3 excellent rosters led by 3 game-changing superstar quarterbacks with 3 excellent coaches. Not that insane. So, game's going to be very fun. Of course, make sure to tune in. And tonight, the first game is on Amazon. So, Amazon is finally getting their game started. NBC had it last week. I was actually wrong about that. So, we're going to see Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit take over the booth. It's going to be very excited. I'm looking forward to it. With that said, you're watching the Benjamin Cure Show. Thank you so much for watching this week. That's the end of our episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on social media. It's funny because last week I made it a point not to post the social media clips to give people more ammunition to come and watch the show. Sure enough, we're getting more viewers to the show. So, of course, I'll be resuming the social media posts this week with little clips. Make sure you like, make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe. And let's enjoy week 2 of the NFL season. I'm super excited. Once again, I'm Benjamin Cure. I'll see you next week.